Queensland is a really hot spot. It's performing really well in both overseas migration and internal migration.
So almost quadruple. Yeah! Bringing you another market update of our Listener's Choice episode series. Junge Ma, lead research analyst from InvestorKit, answers the questions directly submitted by you guys. This time, we're focusing on the full market of Queensland, zooming in on the LGA of Charters Towers, and then into Charters Towers City itself to answer our question.
Days on market. Days.
I didn't even know that was a thing anymore. If Rowan's looking for cash flow side of things, is he looking in the right place?
26% of the residents are employed in the mining industry. Economy in Charters Towers is...
If you're interested in investing in high-yield regional locations in Queensland, this is an episode you're going to want to listen to closely. My name's Todd Sloan. You're listening to the Pizza and Property Podcast, and this is my chat with lead research analyst Junge Ma. Junge Ma, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Very good, thank you. We're going to have a look at Queensland. Got some high cash flow questions here coming hot off the press from Rowan. And I wanted to also lead this in with, if you guys have got a question that you want answered and an area that you want a real deep dive done on, click link in the show notes below, send us a little bit more, because I think Rowan's actually sent in a bit more of a question, which is awesome. Mm-hmm. But Jung, do you want to read it out and we can get into it?
Yeah, no problem. So Rowan asked, house, possibly a duplex, higher yields in the area trade-off for capital growth, purchasing in SMSF with a view to hold long-term. And the area he's mentioning is Charters Towers in Queensland.
Charters Towers. Okay, so there's a bit to unpack there. So it's SMSF and he's really going for cash flow.
Yes.
So before we get into Rowan's question, why don't we look at where he's looking first and start with the state level. What's Queensland looking like today?
Cool. So Queensland is a really hot spot, as everyone knows. Population is performing really well. Yeah, in the last year, population growth was 2.7%. It is not the highest, but the third highest across all states.
It's still strong.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's performing really well in both overseas migration and internal migration.
Okay.
Overseas-wise, third largest overseas migrants receiver after Victoria and New South Wales. And internal migration-wise, it is the largest receiver of internal migrants.
And when you're talking internal migration as well, and this is one of the fascinating parts, like the interstate and intrastate, does that encompass both of those?
If we're talking about Queensland, it's all interstate, right?
It's all interstate.
Yeah. Actually, last year, 7,400 people moved from other states to Queensland.
You're right. Really chasing the sun.
The second one is WA, and they just received 2,200. So that's a huge gap between the number one and number two.
Yeah, wow. Okay. And so we've got a lot of people moving here. Population growth is good, even from the migration level as well. What about like a GDP, median house price? Like, what do the numbers look like in that?
Yeah, GDP is also looking good. Just according to this CommSec State of the States report, Queensland recorded the fastest GDP growth last year, 4.2%.
Fastest GDP growth. Okay. And what's that really like? What's backing that? Because we know that there's a lot of mining behind WA. Like, is there like one sort of specific or like a few specific industries that are really pushing Queensland forward?
For Queensland, I believe two things. One is the population growth. They've got so much more workforce in the economy. And another thing is the strong commodity prices. Yeah, their economy also relies on heavily commodity exports.
It's like the mining sector?
Mining, yes.
You don't really think of Queensland as a mining state, do you?
Yeah, but they have a lot of coal mines in Queensland as well.
Yeah, of course. Okay. All right. So they've got one of the fastest growing GDPs in the country, or the fastest, according to this CommSec study. Is that right?
Yes. On a year-on-year basis.
So state level, things are looking pretty good. What about if we dig a little bit deeper into the LGA? Where's Charters Towers as far as LGA is concerned?
The LGA-wise, population growth is not looking as good as Queensland itself. We're just looking at 0.3% population growth.
0.3%. And what is the LGA?
The LGA is Charters Towers.
Oh, it is Charters Towers.
Yes.
Right, okay.
Regional Queensland's average is 2.2%, so you can tell the difference.
Right, so as much as Queensland's in high demand, Charters Towers not so much.
Yeah, I think people moving to Queensland mostly want the coastal tropical lifestyle.
Yeah.
Instead, Charters Towers is more of an inland little town.
It's not a Noosa or a Cairns or a Brisbane.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
But economy in Charters Towers is not weak at all.
Mm-hmm.
Unemployment rate here is at 4.3%. It is even lower than the Queensland average, which is 4.5%, if I didn't mention it before.
Yeah, right. Okay, so unemployment's pretty strong or pretty good.
Yes, pretty good, and much lower than the last decade average as well.
Is there anything else about the LGA that's really notable?
The LGA itself, the property market is actually not under really high market pressure. We're looking at 11 months of stock in inventory. That is a really high inventory level. And days on market, 310 days.
I didn't even know that was a thing anymore. 310. Wow. Okay, so 11 months of inventory, which is already crazy. And for anyone that's not familiar with the inventory metric, because it's not as commonly used, what was the average for inventory for like a balanced market?
For a balanced market, we would be looking at 3 to 4 months of stock.
So almost quadruple.
Yes.
Triple to quadruple.
Yes.
And how many? 310 days did you say?
Yeah. But again, I think it's also because we're looking at the LGA, which is a massive area. When we focus on the suburb, numbers will be much smaller.
Is now the time to jump into the suburb? Because I'm really interested in the contrast between the days on market.
Cool. Yeah, let's surprise you.
Okay, so what's the days on market for Chartered Towers, the suburb?
Charters Towers. The suburb name is actually called Charters Towers City.
Charters House City, yeah.
The days on market is 130 days.
Okay, so that's still a lot.
Yeah, much lower than 310, but still a lot.
Still high, yeah, okay.
And if we look at the suburb just next to Charters Towers City, it's called Richmond Hill.
Richmond Hill.
The days on market there is much more reasonable. It's 65 days.
64. Wow, that's a massive drop.
Yeah, I think more people would like to buy in that area instead of the city.
All right, so days on market, 130 for Charters Towers, the city. 310 for the LGA. It's pretty huge overall. Richmond Hill, we've got a lower days on market again. So there's a fair bit of variation in this area.
Yes.
But the thing that Rowan's really looking for is cash flow. That sounds like the big thing. And by the sounds of it, from what I'm really picking up from this question, Rowan, if I've got it right, is because if he's wanting to buy this in an SMSF, it has to take care of itself. You can't have a negatively geared property in a self-managed super fund, which is a whole nother episode to go into as well. We won't go into that one today. But if Rowan's looking for cash flow side of things, is he looking in the right place?
I think so, because yield here is really nice. In the city, Charters Towers City, median price is only to 40K, and the yield is 8.1%.
That's huge.
This is huge.
That's the average.
Yes.
So you could potentially manufacture a 10 or 11.
Could be. Yeah, possibly.
Wow. Okay. Just in case you're new at property investing and think, well, why is that good? A standard, what's an average yield in a Sydney suburb? To 2.5%, 3.5%?
For Greater Sydney, it's 2.7%.
2.7. I would say Adelaide would probably be sitting around, 4% now?
Yeah, 4%.
Yeah. So like 8 is huge.
That's really huge. And even in the slightly more expensive suburb of Richmond Hill, it's still 6.9%. Not bad at all.
Yeah, wow. Okay. So as far as a no or a go for Rowan, it sounds like as far as the actual cash flow side of things, he's got to go. But overall, looking at this from an investment point of view, do you think there's potentially going to be a bit of a risk element to this because it is more of a mining dominant town, or what's your take on that?
Yes, for any mining towns, I would be really careful about the industry or the economic health of that location. For Charters Towers, 26% of the residents are employed in the mining industry. That's a huge part of the total population.
So there's obviously a lot of extra factors to balance when someone is considering a mining town. And I know there's been some people get severely burnt in mining towns beforehand. But if this is something that Rowan is very set on and really wants to go into, something that just with my mining background mixed with a property background, and I'd be interested to hear your thoughts, Jung, is that look into the life of the mine, because some mines might have another 100 years left. I remember when I used to work at Roxby Downs, there was literally, I think you said 150 years. I remember the supervisor saying, mate, your grandkids could retire here. I was like, okay, so things are going good. That's not to say that that's the stability and that's the only check you do. But if the mine's only got a life of 5 years left, 10 years left, and it's representing, from what you're saying, 25% of jobs
are in the mining industry.
That's a bit of a red flag right there. So there's a few extra things to really consider. So as far as a no or a go for Rowan, I feel like this could really go either way, because it's kind of a go for some parts, but then it feels like there's kind of a no element as well. Where would you place it?
I believe it would be a go if you have a relatively diverse portfolio already. If you only put your investments in solely in this mining town, I would say it's a no. However, it's just like Perth or Gladstone. It's a good add-on to your portfolio.
But
just
not the whole
because
thing.
just because of the cash flow, but it can't put all the eggs in one basket.
Love it. Rowan, I hope that's answered your question, mate. And feel free to send us a DM on Instagram if you've got any follow-ups. We'll see what else we can do. But if you've got a question that you want answered by either Jung or Arjun, send it in using the link below. Give us as much of a description as you can. And also, thanks, Rowan. You've given a lot more of a description, mate, so I hope that was more helpful for you. But otherwise, Junge Ma from InvestorKit, thank you so much for your time. Hopefully we'll see you again soon.
Thank you, Todd, for having me.